Awesome. That's great. Awesome, guys. Thank you for joining us for this Q&A portion here and for sharing your films with us. First of all, guys, I kind of want to ask you all, this is kind of a question for all of you. We can go down the line here. What inspired the films?
Thank you so much for having me here. What inspired me for this film was, kind of like personal. I don't talk about it as much, but like I was taking Steve McCarthy's documentary class with Ryan, and I was kind of curious about my own exploration about gender and expression. So I kind of wanted to find a safe way to do that because, I'm a little more like unsure how I feel about my own expression. So I thought, why not, learn about drag queens, go to a couple of shows, and, see how I can like put that into my life.
And Tom dragged me onto it. No, we were taking the documentary class together, and I was working on my own projects, but I couldn't really find anything that was really speaking to me as much as what Tom's project was, how it was speaking to me, and he brought me on a little later in the project, and then we worked together to build the project in post. I worked on editing it, and we worked together to create a story that we both were proud of.
So I think what I can say inspired me for that was the drug deal scene in Boogie Nights. I don't know if anyone's ever seen it, but I will die on a hill and say I think those 15 minutes could be the greatest short film of all time. It was one scene, and you just understood enough to see what was happening, and it was contained in really like one room. So I wanted to practice directing and working with actors with very limited space and try to get performances, and I really, really loved that scene. So that was a huge inspiration to shoot something a little bit odd in just one location. So Boogie Nights was a big inspiration.
Yeah, so for my film, I was a percussionist for 10 years, and that was an experience that meant a lot to me and that I got so much enjoyment out of. And I mean, it only felt right to like honor that through a film. It's something I miss very much, and so this film felt like coming back to that a little bit. Yeah, and it's just something that I know not everyone gets to experience, is like being a part of a performing ensemble like that, and sort of the emotions that creating music can bring. It's not something everyone gets to do, and I feel really lucky that I did. So I really just wanted to bring that to like the audience, and I kind of based it on like my playing days a little bit, but yeah, that's really the basis, is like bringing that world to life.
So for me, my inspiration came from the fact that I robbed someone on IG Live. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't do that. But that was actually as simple as it was. Is I just had a random thought. I was like, whoa, what would happen if someone just robbed someone while they were on Instagram Live? And it kind of just spitballed from there. And over the time, I eventually like started writing characters kind of as a way of like catharsis, maybe, I don't know, with like internal struggles and just ways that I was thinking about things. But the inspiration was literally just, I thought of a scene that was be funny, and I was like, I'll write a movie about that.
Awesome. Okay, I probably should have actually had you guys sit in order. My first question is for David, actually, here. So I certainly had fun watching the film. I'm sure everybody else did. The characters are very unique and interesting. I was actually wondering if any of these lines and dialogue and moments were sort of actually improvised, or if it was all kind of, cut and dry from the script.
Thank you. Yeah, many of the lines were improvised. The script itself was about like 4 pages, so it was very light, and the film was about 8 minutes, so pretty much double the runtime of what's on paper. And so keeping everything very simple, like in terms of the blocking, in terms of the location, and really the character, through rehearsal, we were able to dive deep into who they were and just going crazy, give them all these different scenarios that weren't on the script but held the same emotion. So once we were rolling, we could actually practice what was on script and save that authenticity for in front of the camera. And that's where the pickle scene came in, and also giving them different direction, and just also giving them confidence that you could try whatever you want, and hence the cigarette being taken out. They didn't know that was gonna come out of their hand. The one that I really regret is throwing the bottle without telling them, but yeah, so like, that was a real scream. And so just from that and being very open and experimental with performance, so much of it made me look like a better writer than I am, because I could not have written that pickle scene. I never even came up with that, so yeah.
Very cool. My next question's for Hunter. I was kind of like fascinated by this story with Matt, and I was actually wondering if you think that this character would kind of enjoy the current culture surrounding rap right now, or how do you think that he would sort of feel about this climate? It seems like he's not super interested in what the manager was kind of trying to go after, so I was curious about that.
So for Matt, I think, like, internally, that just wasn't really what he wanted to make, and he wanted to make his own art, like, for himself. But in terms of how he would feel about, like, rap in general, in the opening scene, there's an Outkast poster that comes from my room, and I would like to believe that if you're a fan of Outkast, you'd be a fan of just, like, rap in general. So I think he'd be pretty chill with it. But yeah, I think when it comes to just like him and the story and what music he wanted to make, I don't think he had anything against rap. Like, that wasn't, it was just, he knew that he couldn't speak through that. He could speak better through something else, but someone else was telling him that's what he needed to do.
Very interesting. Thank you. Now for Tom and Ryan here, my next question for you guys: as filmmakers, why do you think that this was a significant story for you both to tell, and why do you think it's important to tell more stories like this?
That's a great question. I mean, like I said, previously, like, trying to figure out more about, how do I want to express myself, in public, or maybe I want to one day put on a dress and be a drag queen. I don't know. The jury's out. Like, I had done a Film 2 project called Phenomenal, and that was how I met Nick Antonellis, Fantasia Faye, and they actually loaned me a dress for my character for it. And, I kind of kept on going with that as I took another class, and, that was kind of, yeah. So, like, I guess it's kind of more self-exploration. I think it's a good way to, put that into a medium.
Trying to remember the question. Oh, yeah. So, I think it's important to tell stories like this mainly because, I mean, this story specifically is, I think, very much normalizing drag queens, and I think that's extremely important in a time where they're being attacked for who they are as people and just the way that they choose to express themselves. So I think being able to tell a story about just 3 performers that are just people and just trying to live their life, I think is extremely important, and being able to normalize that and I guess bring awareness in a way to the fact that they're just people and they're your friendly neighborhood drag queen.
Awesome, thank you. And now for Reilly, I was fascinated by this idea of the character having synesthesia. I was wondering if you kind of go over a little bit more about, what this is and kind of, what it means.
Yeah, so synesthesia is basically a condition where your senses are sort of intertwined in your brain, and it manifests in a lot of different ways for a lot of the people who have it. Like, no one really experiences it the same way as someone else who has it. But one of the most common ones, which is the one we depict in this film, is like a sound-color association. So, like, my character hears a certain sound and sees a certain color. For her, it's the drums and they're orange type of thing. For most people, I did a lot of research on it, talked to some people, and for most people, it kind of manifests in their mind's eye. They don't necessarily see it in their surroundings. It's very rare. So, I mean, it's really tough to depict something that only the character can see in a film like this. So we definitely did have to make it bigger and bolder than maybe most people experience. There are a select few who do experience it like this character. But yeah, this was definitely like one of the main vehicles that we used for this film and tried to explain it as best as possible. So.
Very interesting, thank you. And then now for David again, I thought the lighting in this film was phenomenally done. I thought it was very well crafted. I was kind of wondering if you could break down a little bit about the filmmaking techniques here, how you guys kind of pulled this off. I especially liked the last shot with the telephone and all that, so I was wondering if you kind of explain a little bit about this.
Yeah. Well, first of all, huge shout out to Carrie City and Alex Orphan. They are absolutely phenomenal, and they're the 2 people that really believed every crazy thing that I had as an idea. and that was kind of a joke on set. I kept saying, it's not crazy, and they kept repeating that, so I think that drove me a little crazy. But so how we did the lighting, it was very much because being limited to one location, we blacked out the windows. This was the first time I had a gaffer ever. So having Orphan was like such a blessing, right? Especially in like one contained location. So we blacked out the windows. It takes place at night, and we didn't have. I say like we couldn't shoot in color. And what I mean by that is because like what you just saw with the other films and the production design that goes behind it, what color means for every single scene, it's really mind-blowing. And so I didn't really have the resources for a big PD. So we said, hey, we're going to shoot it black and white. And I didn't want it just to be regular black and white. I really love the work of Shizen Suzuki, a lot of Japanese noir. He's called like the director of cool and style. And the way that he uses black and white in a lot of his work, especially in Branded to Kill, is just absolutely phenomenal. And that shot where he is looking at the time and you have the light right on him, that's the kind of lighting I wanted on set. Very in your face. We're not trying to hide it. Very stylistic, and that's how we did really the entire film. Just trying to keep it very expressionistic, using the black and white to our advantage, and that's how you have that last shot by just literally, practically turning off all the lights and just leaving the phone on and using the just atmosphere and that dark black to just fill it in, and you're left with that final shot. So again, just a huge shout out to them because they worked phenomenally on it, and I think they did a really good job.
Also, and now for Hunter, once again, kind of going back to these, these characters, I was curious if you think that Matt is sort of representative of like a lot of current artists right now, maybe kind of trying to find their voice and stuff. And kind of a follow-up question to this is, if so, do you think that this is like a journey that you have had personally, or that you've taken inspiration from in a sense?
So that's a good question. Very much. I mean, I guess I'm answering your follow-up question first, but very much a journey that I've taken. That's kind of how it spitballed from the original idea, was trying to implement myself in these characters in different ways. And Matt was just one that he had a problem of, not necessarily speaking up for himself or not doing exactly what he wanted. And sometimes I think about that. I'm like, am I doing exactly what I want? Am I speaking up when I need to? I can't generalize for everybody, so I don't know if it's necessarily what everyone goes through, but I think that feeling of imposter syndrome does creep in a lot, especially in filmmaking. When you're up against like great films like these, you're always going to like judge yourself. So I do think, and I wrote it in a way that I think speaks to that, and I think Matt encapsulates that. Hopefully that answered the question.
Thank you. Okay, and now for my other question here for Tom and Ryan. How did you both hear about the Lunar Fair in Sussex County and Stanhope House, as well as just like, these specific artists to cover? I know you guys already kind of talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, I apologize. I kind of answered that question previously. The nerves. But no, yeah, so like I was saying, I met Nick Antonellis first at school here, just like randomly. I'm a film major. I don't know how I met a chemistry major. I kind of talk a lot. So with that, I forget how I ran into Nick. And, just kind of we became friends, hanging out a little bit. And like, once I found out they did like drag queen, I had never been to a drag show. So they kind of invited me to their, where they perform a lot at the Stanhope House. And, I kind of went to the show. I was like, wow, this is cool. Maybe, maybe I could do that one day. I don't know, but like, I actually did try like the dress that they loaned me one time. I tried it on once. I was like, let me see what I look like. It didn't really fit me. So like, I don't know, but like the jury's still out.
I think Tom answered the question pretty well. I came on a little later in the project, so I kind of learned more about these characters and the story kind of after the process was already rolling. So it was really interesting kind of jumping into it and then going to the Lunar Fair to get some footage. That was so much fun, and it just kind of came together. Oh yeah.
Quick shout out. I just wanted to say thank you, Ryan. Like, thank you for coming on. You made the project like possible. Thank you. I see Lulu out there, and I see Sean. Like, they both helped me as crew members, and among others. Thank you guys.
Awesome. Oh yeah, the snaps. We were doing snaps earlier. And my last question for Reilly. So recently you learned that the film will also be premiering at the Montclair Film Festival in about 2 weeks. Yeah. I was hoping that you could kind of tell me about some of the emotions about hearing that news and maybe how it happened and, how we'll be able to, view this in a few weeks.
Absolutely. Well, first, real quick, I want to shout out the other films that this is premiering with. Like, our block is so stacked. I'm so, excited. Like, you guys, I don't even have words to express, how talented everyone in this group is. So I'm just so, excited and honored that my film is shown with, my friends. That's so amazing. And yeah, it was definitely a couple months in the works. I got an email a couple months ago being fill out this spreadsheet, and I was like, okay. And then it was back and forth, and I knew it was happening, but then I was at work, and I have a big girl job, you guys. So I have to go every day, 9 to 5, and basically I'm a photographer, right? So I'm at these schools, I'm doing pictures, I have no time. So then all of a sudden I get this, so I don't know anything that's going on, when it's being announced. I know it's happening for definite, it's happening, and I've sent them my stuff and all this. But then I all of a sudden find out the list is dropping September 29th, and it's going to be announced. And I'm and that's today. And I'm what? I'm hang on, my film's being announced today. It's part of Montclair Film Festival, and I don't even know, what? So then I didn't have Wi-Fi at the school that I was at. So I'm trying to use the one bar of LTE I have to try and load the Montclair Film Festival website just to see it. And then the moment I did, it was crazy because to know about it and to get these emails and to be doing it, that's one thing. But then to see it there in black and white, Tangerine Drum Machine, directed by Reilly McHugh, at the list, it was it became very real, and I was very overwhelmed in the moment, and I was literally working, but I went and I showed all my coworkers who are a lot older than me, and I went and I showed them all my phone. I'm look, you guys, and they're what am I looking at? So it was a very overwhelming 10 minutes of oh my god, it's real, it's real. To see it there printed on the website, and my film still up there with all these other incredible film stills, and to know that people are going to be paying money to see my film, it just hit me all at once. It's happening, and it was very overwhelming and very happy. So yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you guys for sharing your films as well. We really appreciate it. And that concludes the Q&A for this block. So round of applause. Thank you guys.